And greetings, good groovers. 'Tis 9 o'clock, Friday night. Time for Conversations with the Owl.
And I'm Mike McGraner, your host, along with Mr. Fritz The Nite Owl, man of the several hours of this podcast. Co-host Vidas Barzdukas. And with us always is Christian. I'm going to keep...
Hey, Christian.
Yeah, without Christian, there'd be no podcast.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
true. We'd still be talking to each other in the living room, but there would be no fly on the wall listening, which is how all of you are involved. Speaking of which, we want to thank you so much for coming to the 50th anniversary screenings that you've came to, for listening to this podcast, even though we all drink, and sometimes I drink too much and I start rambling and endlessly. And thank you for not commenting on, or threatening my life or anything. I would, but that's just me. We're going to hear from Fritz. We're going to talk tonight, 50th anniversary. We had Tobias Rediger on before, and we talked about our first couple of seasons, which you can get this July on DVD and Blu-ray. But we have the time now for this hour to talk about everything Season 3 beyond. So we're going to go movie by movie for all of you people who have messaged me about, what's the episode guide? What's the episode guide? Well, this episode is part 2 of our Nite Owl Theatre episode guide of the reboot series. We're going to go through each movie, why we chose it, our first time seeing it, and just memories of the screenings. And Vidas is with us, thank God, because he wrote half of them.
Yay!
So, yay!
Yeah.
So after our public domain scraping the bottom of the barrel, we were going to go into a public domain season 3, and looking at the titles, we had like The Outlaw with Jane Russell, we had Scarlet Street by Fritz Lang, but these movies weren't, horror enough, but they also weren't great. They're fine movies, but with the amount of time and effort we put into these episodes, we wanted to do something kind of bigger and better. Well, during season 2, during the Street Fighter's Last Revenge, Michael Dougherty was in Columbus, and he's the writer-director of a movie called Trick or Treat. And he grew up watching Fritz, and that's his love of horror. So we put our heads together, and we did an episode for Trick or Treat. That was a special that aired in the toward the end of season 2, but it was October 2012. And we just were like, we did this, and all of a sudden our audience went from half full for the season 2 episodes to sold out 2 nights in a row for Trick or Treat, and we realized we were on to something. And then thankfully Eric Brembeck from Studio 35 said, we could just do newer movies. And I said, how? And he said, we booked the rights, and then we got them for a week. You shoot the Fritz segments, and we do them. And the sacrifice we had to make was we could never release them on home video because it would be too expensive. But figured if the theatrical experience and getting everyone together was that it was worth the not being able to release them. So thus, season 3 officially was born, and we started it in July of 2013 officially with the ultimate July film, Jaws. Now, real quick, Trick or Treat happened, of course, because Michael grew up watching Fritz, and we had a lot of fun with it. So that wasn't me choosing that as much as just, it was great. It was a lot of fun. None of the team had seen it before, except for me, I think. It never got its theatrical release. It should have got, but has since become a cult classic, and you can buy action figures and everything for it. But episode 2 of season 3 was Jaws, and I'm going to let Vidas take this one.
Well, what do you want me to talk about?
Well, I know why I chose Jaws, because it defined the term blockbuster. It means the most to you, so that writing duty went to you to research that episode for Fritz. What was your first memory of seeing Jaws, and why is the movie so special to you?
Well, actually, my first memory with the franchise, I actually went to go see Jaws 2 in the theater, and I was 5 years old, I think. And when I went to go see it, I remember I cried throughout the entire movie. It was a packed house. Remember, I cried throughout the entire movie. And I remember I sat on my oldest brother's lap, facing away from the screen. And I remember distinctly a guy leaning forward and telling me to shut up, because the whole thing was just... Because I was crying and ruining the movie for everybody. But for me, when Jaws was shown on TV, I would watch with my dad. And so for me, Jaws became I don't know, just, I really enjoyed the film, but it was also, the memories of my dad and I sitting on the couch and watching Jaws together. And so it became an important film for me.
Well, when we showed it at the Ohio Theater, a lady I was seeing came with me, and maybe 5-10 minutes in, she grabbed my hand, and by the end of the movie, I mean to say my hand was mush.
Right. Yeah.
It just got tighter and tighter and tighter. And the thing about Jaws was, for me, when I was younger, we spent a lot of time on the ocean, and the thought of shark just never occurred to us.
Well, I grew up on Lake Erie up in Cleveland, and I was, after the movie, I was convinced that there were sharks in Lake Erie. And I was a kid, and I was convinced that there were sharks in the bathtub, so, it just terrified me, anything to do with water.
Well, it's a thing that when I swim in my pool, sometimes just the thought of a shark being in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah, so the movie, my wife and I, she took me on that, for my 40th, took me on a Jaws and / Moby Dick tour. And so we went down to Martha's Vineyard and went to all the places where they shot the movie. And the guy that gave us a tour was an extra in the movie Jaws. And so you can actually see him in the scene when Brody gets slapped. You can see him. He's there. He's wearing the white hat. So that's the guy that took us around. And then I met Alex Kittner, because he said, the guy that took us on a tour said that he's the manager at this restaurant. And so my wife and I and kids, we went down there to meet Alex Kittner, and the waiter who was taking our order, I said, whatever his guy's name is, I'm sorry. I said, is he here? I heard he's the manager. And the waiter goes, well, he's a manager. And so, and then so the guy came out, and he was he was very friendly, but he was a little, wary of us.
Yeah.
Because I think he gets people coming in all the time. And he said, he apologized for being, a little, wary. He said, because he's had fans come in with his name tattooed on their bodies,
crazy.
And he said not his character's name, his name. Oh. And he has said that he's found his pay receipts from work on eBay. People go through his garbage.
Oh my God.
So
Goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, but we did that, and my wife and I routinely go to Martha's Vineyard, and one time we went to a diner. And we mentioned, we were there for Jaws, and the woman that was working behind the diner, she was an older woman, said that she did makeup for Jaws. She was one of the makeup people, and as a gift, everybody on the cast and crew signed a script for her and gave it to her, and she has that at home somewhere. And anyway, so it's kind of it's a big deal for me. So I was ecstatic when you asked me to write Jaws.
And the night we premiered it was a packed house and a lot of fun, and
Which theater did we?
That
was a studio.
35.
Studio 35. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the energy in that room was so fun. For us, it was cool because Trick or Treat, obviously, that was a bigger movie, and I was so excited for that one. But Jaws, it's like, oh my God, we get to have our to be able to do Fritz segments for these big movies. It felt more like this is like Fritz the Nite Owl on cable. Like, it was so cool to be able to
Well, I remember getting to the bar, to studio, like an hour beforehand. I was sitting at the bar having a drink, and I remember you coming in, Mike, Fritz coming in, and then I was just sitting there just waiting, and then this line started growing and growing and growing. And it's like, wait, is this for Jaws? And I remember the line was out the door, and it was, because we didn't know if anybody was going to show up.
Because our second season it didn't dwindle, but it's just... Nite Owl had this huge 1-year bang, and then the second season was like, oh, this is cool. They're doing this random movie. You know what I mean?
But then
Jaws was like, oh, here we go.
And it sold out, right?
Yeah.
Jaws, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2 nights. We were doing Friday, Saturday both
at
that time when we were premiering them. But yeah, so Jaws was episode 2. Episode 3 was Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Now, when I chose Blade Runner for us to do, I got to admit something. I had never seen the movie.
Oh.
Ever. Like, I was just going off of, like, I know that's a cult hit. I know people love it, and it's going to be awesome. And then I watched it to decide where the commercials would go. And I just remember I didn't mind it, but I was like, ooh, this is slow.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a typical Nite Owl. Like, are people going to come to this? And to this day, it's our biggest. Every time we show it, it's just.
Yeah, what I remember about when we did Blade Runner, I remember sitting in the audience and they oversold it. I think they oversold the tickets.
Yeah, it was
and so
crazy.
they brought in seats from the bar and put them in the back, and I remember that. But
What was
so
your
many
first
people.
memory of seeing Blade Runner? Do you remember?
Yeah, I actually saw it in the theater. So I saw the original in 1981. Yeah.
Did the narration
Yes.
kill it for you then, or did you still
Well-
like the movie, not knowing that there was ever going to be a version without it?
Well, I went to go see it because of Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, because it had Han Solo in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about it, so I just really went to go see it because of him. I think Raiders was out at this point. But I remember being, it's just slow. I mean, I was a young kid.
Right.
Yeah, so I do remember it was slow. I remember the narration, and I actually own the briefcase that has all 5 versions on it.
Yeah.
But then I saw it when it was re-released in 1990.
Final cut?
Yeah,
92.
so I
92 was the director's cut.
94. I don't remember.
97 was the director's, or was the final cut something like that?
I don't remember, but I was in college. I went to go see it, and with that movie, it's got a great opening and a great ending, but the middle is a little slow.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Fritz? Do you remember when you saw? I know you showed it on Channel 10.
Well, we showed the very first version of it, and then Marvel Comics put out a comic book version of it, which was still had the first ending in it.
The original, yeah.
Oh, nice.
With
The
everybody
original
driving in
ending,
the car.
yeah. And I bought the comic book simply because it was the art. I forget the artist who did it, but it was really well done. And I thought, I liked the movie, so I thought, having the comic book. But it had the original ending in there.
Yeah.
And I never saw any of the versions after that. But I always liked science fiction, so it was a treat for me to watch that.
I enjoyed. I think writing these episodes. I just because it's just me. I just don't go on Wikipedia. I try to find books on it, and
Maybe people don't know.
yeah, because I think with Jaws and maybe Blade Runner and other films we'll talk about, I think people know a lot of the basic facts. I think people who are going to be there are like, yeah, I already know that. And so for me, it's always researching those things that, I didn't know. Like, I think everybody knows Raiders, but did you know at the end that those were Ken dolls, that they were,
Exactly.
Things like that I was trying to find those little tidbits, and then finding those books about Blade Runner or whatever. That was part of the fun, and trying to see if I surprise the audience with information that they don't know,
Yeah.
So
The next episode was The Shining. I mean, come on.
yes.
I, of course, picked that because it's iconic status. I picked it also because I know Fritz is a huge Jack Nicholson fan, and he's done artwork with Jack Nicholson. So the thing that was cool about The Shining is the day we premiered it was the day that Fritz and I met Stan Lee when he was in Columbus, and Channel 10 had arranged like a way for Fritz to say hello to Stan Lee, and it was kind of a surprise. And then that night we went to The Shining, and that was a fun memory. But do you remember your first time seeing The Shining? The owl phone is ringing.
Oh,
That's okay, though. That's why we do it live.
I think you arranged for me to meet Stan Lee, because I think it was after.
That was Channel 10. I just meant, do you remember your first time seeing The Shining?
Oh,
Like the movie itself.
yeah. I showed it on Nite Owl, as I recall, and again, it was. I'm a big Nicholson fan. He could do the yellow pages, and I'd give it 4 stars.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's just a movie that I enjoyed. I mean, and it's a thing that whenever it's playing on cable, if it's halfway through, I'll watch it till the end.
Yeah.
And
It does have a great ending.
yeah. No, but I mean, I'll watch it anytime I happen channel surfing. I come across some portion of it. I'll just stop surfing right there and watch whatever is left of the movie.
Right.
Now, have you ever been a Stephen King fan? Like, have you read his books?
What?
Did you read The Shining?
No.
Or okay, gotcha. I didn't know if you were an avid reader. I don't have the patience.
I used to be an avid reader, but in my later years, I sort of didn't read as much.
Yeah.
But in my younger days, I mean, tons of hardcover novels I would go through, and I enjoyed them immensely.
Well, I know I was the one who wrote Trick or Treat. Vidas so far wrote Jaws, Blade Runner, and The Shining.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Yeah, so I was like, I actually read a lot of King. Actually went to his house in Bangor, Maine.
Me too, with the bats on the.
Yeah. So actually, one of the reasons why I love that film is also
I think the bat phone is making a dial tone ring.
Oh.
Go ahead.
actually The Shining is another movie that I used to watch with my dad. So when you asked me to do these films, there's a lot of reliving those moments as a kid, watching the movies, sitting on the couch, Channel 43 or whatever they were showing them on, up in Cleveland. Yeah.
Did your dad? I meant to ask you this. Was he still with us when you started writing on Nite Owl?
No, he had already passed.
I wondered.
Yeah, so then that's why it took on a bigger, meaning to me. So it's kind of I'm connecting with my dad through these movies again in a different way.
The ones that you had asked to write, or were a lot of those movies you watched with your dad, or just like?
I think The Shining and Jaws. If we ever do like Battle of the Bulge, it would be that one. Like these World War II movies. Yeah, but I remember those were the two. So
Escape and all that. Did you guys watch that?
I know we didn't watch those. No.
Well, the next episode and the I don't want to say season 3 as much as just the big theatrical reboot. Is Halloween, and I mean, come on, like I own 3 copies of it on 35 millimeter. I own 2 copies of it on 16 millimeter. No, 3 because I'm going to sell one. Yeah, I've got 6 copies of that on film.
So you're saying you're a fan?
I'm a little bit of a fan of that.
Yeah.
Been to the locations a lot. Fritz, first time seeing Halloween.
Again,
Thoughts on the movie in general?
well, first time I saw it was again on the Nite Owl broadcast. I should go back to Jaws and The Shining moment is we didn't show those on chiller night. They were just shown on a regular night where we could have had a musical or a comedy or something like that.
Because they were more
So
upscale films, probably.
Well, it's kind of a thing. I guess it was because but we showed some classic movies on Nite Owl, a lot of heavyweight films. But for some reason, Jaws and The Shining were shown on non-chiller nights.
Well, you know what's
And then Halloween was because I worked at Nite Owl from 74 on. I was working nights, so I didn't get to go to theatrical movies
Oh, sure.
at all. But I saw a movie every night, different movie every night doing Nite Owl.
Right.
It reminded me of my days when I was ushering at the Clinton Theater. I would see the main feature 2 times and the second feature once, and they would, who the hell?
They know it's Friday night.
Okay, talk to Vidas a minute.
Hi, Vidas.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
So listen, we're going to make this tape, and then what we do is people come in and they'll pay to see like different VHS interviews, and then they pick someone, and if they pick you, we'll call you, and that's how you get your date.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Nice.
Just look into the camera.
All right.
and say your name,
Yeah.
Date of birth and what
Right.
you're looking for
Right.
in a human being. Yes! That was my favorite moment of Conversations with the Owl, is Conversations with the Bars.
Is that what I'm known as now? The bars.
Bars will be here, shortly. I always get the Zontar first and make sure the owl is awake and moving. And all I'm filling in time because this is live, and also so you don't hear his conversation because he is on the bat phone or the owl phone with someone who doesn't listen to the podcast and know that it's Friday nights. But
you gotta love live, live radio or whatever we're doing here.
So you're not a fan of Halloween, right, Vidas?
You know what? I am not well, no, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to say that I'm not a fan of Halloween.
Well, okay, let me be fair. I think Blade Runner's slow, and
I think Halloween is very slow. And when I saw the Nite Owl version of Halloween, what I noticed is that because we're cutting it up into segments, and I'm like, there's nothing has happened. Other than her looking out the window or whatever, it's the same things.
It's called atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's also like it's a 10-minute movie that I feel has been stretched to like an hour and a half.
That's fair.
So I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's just rinse repeat for me, I guess. Like, okay, but it follows the formula of a horror movie.
So
but
all right. So that's my next question. Do you? Any answer is okay. Do not kill him, listeners. Do you feel that horror is? Because you weren't like a diehard horror fan when we started doing this.
No.
So do you think horror is kind of like that, where it's sort of like rinse, repeat?
Well, okay, the people are going to kill me for this, but okay. So because of Nite Owl, I have gone to horror conventions.
Yes.
And I've watched a lot more horror movies than I ever have. I mean, before I started watching like Halloween and Friday the 13th and all the classics. But then I'm watching some of these classics and I don't understand the allure for these. Like, I'm like, it's bad acting, bad script, bad lighting, bad direction. Like, I don't understand. Like, there's a zillion movies out there. Why would you want to spend 2 hours watching this? But there is, I think, like, horror fans are very forgiving and they just like the genre. And they have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, I'm looking for maybe I don't know if I'm looking for something else. Sometimes I just can't get sucked into it, or I notice the flaws and I can't get past the flaws.
Well, I know where you came around on horror, and that's that when I was doing during the pandemic when I was doing the Terror from the '80s screenings on the Zcast channel. I remember you telling me that you got home and you were either buzzed or you cracked open a drink and got a buzz. And I think it was like Fright Night Part 2 or something where like there was something on and you're like, I just tuned into this and it's just, these are fun.
Yeah. And no,
they're bad, but fun.
Yeah. And I guess like, but I remember as a kid, we rented a movie, my buddy and I, it was like Rat's Night of Terror with Scatman Carruthers is in that, and I remember I'm like, wow, this is schlock. Like, why of all the movies that we could watch, but you asked me and I'm like, I used to watch all those ninja movies back in the 80s, where people...
There were times when certain kinds of movies were mass popular. I mean, during the 50s, cheap science fiction with John Agar, for example, as the star, was kind of the pictures people wanted to see.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the ninja pictures. There was a period of, I don't know how many years, but I mean, it was like when those pictures showed, the Bruce Lees and so forth, they always sold out. And then right now, say those kind of films it's just the cult people that still watch them to some degree. But say, for example, I saw all of them, but in my channel surfing, where I would stop to see all of the rest of The Shining, I go to I hit a Kung Fu movie, and while I showed it on Nite Owl, and I've seen it once, that's it. And Halloween is the same way. I've seen it once, but I wouldn't stop to watch it.
Right.
I wouldn't watch it again.
Which is exactly what I mean about like the Jaws and Shining being more upscale. Like people that don't necessarily like horror can watch those movies. And even if you look up Jaws on the box office reports back in the day, the studios always put their movies in like a genre. Jaws is action adventure.
Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah.
As horror.
Right.
But Jaws 2 was listed as horror. Jaws 3 was listed as horror. And I'm just like,
Well,
but Jaws 1 was action adventure.
Yeah, it was action adventure because, the characters have arcs. They have, it's the trilogy, the trinity between the three characters.
And 2, 3, and 4 was more exploitation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like you're just watching teenagers, die in the second one. And you can tell that Roy Schneider doesn't even want to be in the second one. So I don't know. For me, like I tried watching them, but then like there's movies like Trick or Treat, which I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to like this. It's a beautiful film.
Yes.
It's a very clever story. That one just, I was mesmerized as soon as I started watching it.
Yeah.
And I try to watch it every year around Halloween. So what I try to do now is that every October, starting October 1st, I'm trying to watch one movie a night. But then some of these that are like cult films, I'm like, I don't get it. Like this is like
you're talking to a guy, and I'll go on record and say this on the podcast. I don't understand the love for Terrifier. It's a thing.
Terrifier, is that a movie?
Yeah, Terrifier is an independent. This is the credit I will give it. It's an independent horror film that's insanely gross and cruel to women in the first one, but the second one kind of redeems itself and has like a female hero or whatever. But it's a movie that was made as an independent film, like any other film, but it broke independent box office records without even distribution.
Well,
I mean, it was like a Fathom event thing that turned into a regular theatrical run. And you got to respect it for that. But I don't understand. People were like, Art the Clown is Freddy. Jason. No, he hasn't earned it.
Well, I was watching a movie with it's got Sam Neill in it. It's from 1980. It's a cult film, and
The Awakening? No. Possession? The Awakening?
Possession?
It's called Possession.
Okay, so I started watching that, and I thought it was a comedy because I'm laughing throughout the whole thing.
Oh, man.
Because I'm like, this is like, I mean, there were some parts that I'm like, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's unintentionally, or it's supposed to be funny. Then I'm like, oh, it's unintentionally funny. And then I'm texting my buddy like, I'm laughing throughout this entire movie. Is this supposed to be funny? It's overacting. It's so melodramatic. Some of the scenes were just ridiculous. And then like Suspiria, I know I'm angering so many fans here.
Oh, it's so beautiful to look at, but it doesn't move.
It makes no sense. I mean,
right.
I mean,
Italian horror.
It's but So I don't know. I like that one. I'm like, okay, it's a cult film. Studio 35 showed it like on a midnight show during and I'm like, I'm gonna watch this, and I guess I just sit there and I'm like, okay, that's bad lighting. I mean, what's the direction on this?
If it's Suspiria, it's amazing lighting.
Okay,
just saying.
Well, there's a lot of lighting. It's very dramatic.
He's like, you want that scene blue? How about blue as a Smurf?
Yeah, right. No, right, and I think that if you I think you go into this with a I know I'm going to get hate mail, but yeah, maybe you have to go into this like with a certain type of
Barzdukas at mindspring.net.
No. I think like with a certain type of attitude, or hey man, we're just here to enjoy ourselves. We're just going to not think about it, and then it's fun.
That wasn't your real email address I just shared with you.
No, there's not. No.
But. Mindspring.net.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's I knew Halloween would stir up that conversation,
Sorry.
but I wrote that one. All right, moving on. Back to the Future. So this is kind of outside of the horror box, outside of I guess it's sci-fi, but I wanted to do something fun and iconic, and that movie still like defines the 80s. And Mark A. Miller, who is no longer with us, wrote that episode, and it was just an amazing time for a Night Owl. We got people out that wouldn't normally come to a horror film. Vidas and Fritz, what are your thoughts on Back to the Future?
Oh, Back to the Future I enjoyed immensely, and I would watch it again. It was I'd give the movie a B+.
I really enjoyed the movie. I saw it as a kid in the theater.
There's a lot of great quotable lines in that movie.
It does, yeah. And I think I just love Michael J. Fox in the movie. I really enjoy that movie.
I love when we just watched it at the recent 50th anniversary Night Owl screening. There's the scene where he's doing the test in the garage and the model car catches on fire, and Doc's reaction is just like horrified. And Christopher Lloyd does his looks in that movie.
Oh yeah,
are so good. Like the scene where Leah Thompson shows up and he's watching them talk, and he's just kind of behind Marty, like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. His eyebrows do everything.
Yeah,
he's one of my favorite supporting actors, and I'm also a car junkie, so seeing the DeLorean there was kind of an extra treat
Actually,
for
we
me.
did that.
That's what I was
We
about to say.
Did that for the premiere. We had a guy that owns a DeLorean. I think you hooked that up, Vidas. Did
Nope.
you not?
Nope.
No. Okay. I don't remember who hooked that up. But somebody that owns a DeLorean picked Fritz up in the DeLorean, drove him to the premiere, and there's that great shot of Mark and all of us with the DeLorean. That's my favorite Nite Owl
Right,
cast
yeah.
photo.
Did he pick you up at your house? Where did
No, I
No,
think it was just down the street from studio. wasn't
Fritz?
it?
Yeah,
We just did a
it
block.
was
You know,
somewhere, right?
Okay.
I forget who. I
I couldn't
forget
even
who
fit in
set
the car.
it
I
up.
mean, it was like 2 people could fit in a DeLorean.
really?
That's
Okay.
pretty much it. Yeah. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he rents it out. Like I
Yeah.
mean, he will do that for people, and it's really cool. Yeah, that was a really fun night. But yeah,
That was the second live DeLorean that I saw. When they first came out, young Dick Wolf was the head of TV and radio at the time, and he had one, and he brought it down to Channel 10, and we all got out and got to look at it, and he drove us around in it a bit.
would
And then
love
I
to have
never saw a live one again until the guy showed up at Nite Owl Theatre to give me a ride in one.
well, in those cars, they had a look to them that was like actually cool, unlike
Yeah.
the Tesla truck. You know,
Sure, right,
which
yeah,
tries to
yeah.
look like the DeLorean, but looks like something Mad Max homemade. you
Well,
know,
I'd
but,
never
yeah.
seen doors open like that.
Yeah, right. It's like
Yeah.
a spaceship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it was awesome.
Well, I remember I remember the crowd standing outside. Everyone had their phones out to take pictures of you, Fritz.
As a matter of fact, he drove the DeLorean into the space where between 11th and Studio 30, or
Well, not 11th, because it's in Clintonville. This was Walhalla and, or no, what is the cross street? Weber and,
Weber and Broadway?
no. It was, what street was the theater in the University District?
oh, but that was 11th and, yeah, but that was
Yeah,
not,
but
that was not the Back to the Future show. Yeah, that was the Studio 35, back to the DeLorean show. Was that?
Oh, well,
yeah,
I guess
but you're right, because Ghostbusters was at the campus one, and they drove the Ecto one between 11.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the Ghostbusters car. Spoiler coming up.
Wait, you got to ride in a Ghostbusters car?
They showed up for the premiere of it at Gateway.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was like the Columbus Ghostbusters. Apparently, every city in the world has a Ghostbusters team
Okay.
that just cosplays, and they're at all the conventions. They've got like sexy lady Ghostbusters. They've got I did not know this was a thing.
Huh.
Did not know this was a thing.
Huh.
But yeah, no, I was in New Jersey with Deborah Foreman, who was in April Fool's Day, and we were set up at her booth, and I took her to photo ops, and when it was her time to like take pictures with fans, and when I got in there, Christopher Lloyd was just standing there and waiting on his like photo op thing, and I just remember him and I standing in this room, and I'm just like, I had nothing to say, didn't even
Yeah,
say.
right.
I was just like, blew it.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that was a moment where I wish I would have said hello. Another Mark Miller written episode, Gremlins, followed Back to the Future because it was Christmas, and I knew I wanted to do something for Christmas, and there's a few great Christmas movies that would have worked for Nite Owl, Gremlins being the obvious one. So Mark wrote that episode too. What is your take on Gremlins? Because I wanted to ask you this, Fritz, because I know you're not a fan of a movie we're going to talk about coming up with kids in it, but neither is Vidas or anyone else, apparently. Apparently it's just me. But is Gremlins like one of those annoying kiddie movies, or is it actually something you like?
No, I like Gremlins, and I'd never seen it before
Oh,
because
okay.
I don't think we ever had that on Nite Owls.
Right.
But as I recall, it was an enjoyable movie, and it was an hour and a half
Right.
well spent. But again, I wouldn't go out of my way to see it again.
Yeah, a pretty messed up vibe in that movie. Like, you don't know if it's going to be like family comedy or like just dark as hell with the whole
Well, when
Santa
he
Claus monologue.
Well,
and,
it's
like,
also when he microwaves one. Yeah.
it was like, it almost felt like they started shooting a rated R movie and then backpedaled.
Well, I thought it was
yeah.
a nice combination of comedy and horror. That was one of the things I did like about it. Was I thought it was a very imaginative movie,
Yeah.
and So Gremlins did all the right things for me. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Fantastic. Yeah. What about you, Vidas? Did you like?
I enjoyed
you a
it.
Gremlins fan?
No, yeah, I enjoyed it. I remember seeing it in the theater. I think I found some of the violence a little bit disturbing. Again, maybe about my age, but I thought, I'm like, oh, this is a cute little, those like the cute little gremlins, and then when they microwaved the one, I think that was like, what? I don't. Maybe I saw it with my parents. I think the way my parents reacted was like, wait, what are we watching? Is this, a family movie, like you said, or is it a horror movie? Because that's kind of dark or gross. And I remember the audience reaction was like, some of them people laughed and some people were. I remember that specifically. People did not know how to react to that.
Well, I feel like that's the vibe of that's the problem with the movie. If there's a problem at all, is that it's just like, I don't know.
They can't decide what
PG or R.
They can't decide what type of movie it was.
Now, see, to me, the fact that it was both horror and comedy,
They worked for
that
you?
combination to me was one of the reasons I liked the movie.
Well, that's why I love. This is a movie we've never done for Nite Owl, but it was on the short list of another season. Had we done it, was The Burbs with Tom Hanks. Did
I've
you
never
ever see
seen
The
that.
Burbs?
I've never seen that.
Oh, we gotta watch The Burbs. It's horror comedy, but it's just done so beautifully, and it's the same director of Gremlins.
Well,
and it's like
I think like for me, when I think like horror comedy, it's like Evil Dead 2.
that's pretty hard horror comedy though.
Yeah,
like, where
it
it's
is.
like 90% horror, 10% comedy. Well, no, it's probably got a 50.
No, I think it's
The
50-50.
first
Well,
Evil
I
Dead.
laugh a lot through that. I think, maybe it's because
The
I think it's
second
so
one is
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
It's
Well,
ridiculous. Second one is ridiculous.
Real quickly, didn't Hitchcock make a movie called The Birds?
Oh, of course.
Yes, he
yeah.
did. I think it followed Psycho.
Oh, you
Oh
said
no, I
The
meant the
Burbs.
burbs, like suburbs.
Oh, The Burbs. Okay,
Yeah,
I
no,
thought you
yeah.
said The Birds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Those words sound insanely similar.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Next episode, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think you jumped at this one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I also feel like maybe this was so weird when we launched because I remember Raiders of the Lost Ark. I feel like when we were at like some filmmaker mixer, that when I came up to you to ask you to write for Nite Owl Theatre, I feel like Raiders was the one I asked you about, but then we had not
pushed
yet
that.
started working on. Yeah, it was something like that. But I remember Raiders being like,
Yeah. So Raiders for me was, again, with my dad. I remember we went to go see Clash of the Titans in the
Harryhausen.
in the theater, but the line was too long. And I think okay, maybe my dates are wrong, maybe my movies are wrong, but I think we went to go see that one.
That makes
And-
sense. Clash of the Titans was 83, I think.
Was it? So maybe 81. So yeah, so it was around the same time. And
I thought it was terrific.
but I was waiting in line, and the line was too long, and my dad had no patience. And I remember we were standing in line, and my dad's like, "I'm not waiting for this." But there was a movie theater like across the street, and they were showing one movie, and it was called Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I've never even heard of it because I was, I don't know how old, 9 years old. I remember my dad said two things. He goes, "Han Solo is in it." And Time Magazine said it was good. And
That's how he sold you on Blade Runner.
Yeah, and I was like...
Or no, Blade Runner wasn't out yet.
All right. And I was like, oh, okay. So we went to go see it, and I went with my dad. And I remember, when he shoots the guy with the sword, my dad laughed so hard, probably for the rest of the movie. He was laughing and giggling about it. So that is actually one of my absolutely favorite movies is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, actually, there's a thing on the Stephen Colbert show where he asked people 15 questions, one of which is, what is your favorite action-adventure movie? And mine was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. For me, I think it's the best action movie ever made. I think a lot of people say it's Die Hard, but for me, it's always Raiders of the Lost Ark. I got my kids into it. They love the movie.
Like your father, Indiana Jones shoots the guy with the sword. I mean, I cheered because there's so many movies where the hero survives this huge gunshot thing. He's running away, and there are guns from the dead villains all over the place, right. And they never pick them up.
Right.
Or there are places where the hero can get rid of the villain.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that Indiana Jones did it, that's something I had been waiting since 1940 to see in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I loved researching that film. That was another one where trying to find those facts that that most fans of the movie might not know. Yeah.
I think nostalgia-wise, Spielberg produced projects or directed projects for some reason all have that. Like Back to the Future, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the movie we're about to name soon with the kids that everybody hates but me. They all have that feeling of like they just represent a time, and maybe it's selfish because of my age, but like they just represent a time of youthfulness.
Sure.
Of like you playing with your friends in the treehouse. Like those are all the movies that are kind of like, when I saw Super 8 when that came out, I was shocked at how well that captured that vibe. Well,
Raiders could have been shown in 1940 when I was a kid, and it would have been as good.
Yeah.
And 10 years from now, it's still going to be a very watchable movie.
Well, and even watching it,
timeless.
We showed it earlier this year, and even watching it then was what's so neat is just like it didn't feel like a 1981 movie because there's so many practical things.
Right.
Like even the CGI is like, or the claymation stop motion is cool, but there's only a couple shots where you realize it's like when there's the storm in the sky and he looks toward the screen, you can see the layer of like, okay, he's in front of whatever. But what a great movie still, effects wise, that just kind of, it feels like it was all in camera.
Well, a guy's face melting is one of the
so good.
Right.
Unforgettable facts of that movie. One of the unforgettable
the violence in that
effects.
Movie. Again, kind of like Gremlins, where like that scene, and I just noticed it when we watched it, that scene where Indiana Jones just shoots that guy in the head in the bar when the fire's going. And the blood's
yeah. Well,
that feels like a rated R.
So watching with my kids. So I when I introduced it to my daughters, they love the movie, but the one scene they had the hardest time with is when he fights the mechanic, around the plane, because that violence it's different from the rest of the movie. Yeah. Like he just gets his ass kicked, and there's blood and whatever. The other stuff is like when he's fighting the guys in the marketplace, it's fun violence. I mean, they stab each other and whatever, but it's still like he socks the guy, marry and let's duck, or whatever, or get down, but. That's fun, but then when he gets his butt kicked around the plane, it's always had a different vibe, because he's just getting his ass kicked, and it's kind of
it feels very violent. Like every time
very
he hits
visceral.
You're like, you feel it,
right?
But that wasn't an original idea. I mean, the hero getting his ass kicked by the villain had been done in tons of movies,
right? But that one was so like
that.
that one just seemed violent. I don't know. There's something that was
because tonally it was off from the rest of the movie,
right?
So it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, he's not going to win this one.
So when I'm watching I remember watching with my girls, and they were like, "Can we fast forward that scene?" They always, growing up, they just never liked that scene, and I'm like, "Yeah, I get it. It bothered me as a kid too."
See, if that movie had been out when my kids were small, I wouldn't have had any problem at all taking them to see that movie.
Right.
Well, that was also before the rating. I mean, it's not like that's the most violent Indiana Jones. Temple of Doom was next.
Oh, right. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. But but now they're huge Indiana Jones fans, and my oldest one went on an archaeological dig in Greece.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think partly because of Indiana Jones. And so the movie, I think that's the most quoted movie in our house is Raiders of the Lost Ark. So
that's pretty great. The next movie was supposed to be Tron, and I fought so hard for that. And I remember Disney at the time, we could have booked Tron Legacy, but not Tron. And I just was like, well, Tron Legacy, although I love it, I love that whole world, it's not a Nite Owl movie. I wanted the 80s Tron. And so I put it on the back burner and chose Labyrinth instead. And so Labyrinth is our next movie. And I cannot remember who wrote that. I think it was me.
I did not write that one.
Okay, then it must have been me. But David Bowie, man, I mean, that movie is so cool. And I know his hair is ridiculous and his tights you see a lot more of David Bowie than you ever wanted to. But as a kid, I was kind of obsessed. When I went and saw The Great Mouse Detective, there were two movies shown at that theater. Great Mouse Detective in Theater A. Theater B was Labyrinth. And I remember walking out to go to the restroom from Great Mouse Detective and walking into the wrong theater and seeing the orange creatures like playing with their heads and eyeballs and stuff. And I was like, I want to see this movie so bad. And
Right,
my mom was
right.
like, get back into my Great Mouse Detective. But so Labyrinth was one I had to do for the purpose of I love the movie and my God, we have packed it in every time we've done that.
And a timing thing was you would schedule your movies like a month or two in advance, and you would
Way
schedule
more than that, yeah.
you would schedule them way in advance. And we showed Labyrinth. Bowie died the next week.
Yeah,
And
so
I
that
thought,
wasn't
what a-
our premiere. That was an encore screening, but it was booked. Obviously, no one knew what was going to happen.
Right. That's what I mean.
So-
It was a timing thing that.
I guess we should mention the Nite Owl 2-week thing. I hate to mention this.
What's
but
that?
The 2-week Nite Owl death thing. So when we did Labyrinth, one of the screenings, Bowie had passed away 2 weeks prior to the screening to the day. And I was like, oh, God. And, I had to then make a pre-show that was more like a wake rather than a celebration
Sure.
of this movie. When we did A Nightmare on Elm Street with the cast at a Horror Hound in 2015, Wes Craven died 2 weeks to the day before it. When we did Dawn of the Dead, the premiere, George Romero died 2 weeks to the day after the screening. And it happened one other time. I can't remember what the
So
last
it's kind of like The Ring, you know?
Well, but it's, I mean, obviously we're not narcissists. It didn't happen because we had a screening.
No, right.
But what a bummer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's a weird thing. So, but Labyrinth was definitely one of those.
Well, the thing about, as I say, about Labyrinth was you schedule the movies 3 months in advance, and so we had no idea that David Bowie even had a headache.
Right.
Well, that's
At
the
that
thing.
time,
He kept
and-
it completely secret that he was sick, and
And then it came out, and he
and
went.
that guy, I don't know if you've seen it. You can Google it, but 2 days before he died, there's a picture of him laughing and smiling on the street.
That's like during a photo shoot or something like that?
Yeah, 2 days before he died of
Right,
brain
sure.
cancer, and it's just
Yeah.
it looked like the guy was smiling till the end, which is something I hope we all can do. But anyway, that's depressing. What do you remember about Labyrinth? Like, did you see it growing up, or is it
I've never seen it.
you've never even seen the Nite Owl version?
I've not even seen the Nite Owl version.
All right, we haven't
Sorry.
shown it for the have we shown it for the 50th? We haven't shown it for the 50th yet. No, that's right. I get them all jumbled because we've done so many this year.
Yeah. No, I've never seen it. I don't know.
You're
how-
coming to it, is what I'm saying.
So what year did it come out?
That was 1986. Yeah.
So
Christians are. I'll research that while
yeah.
we're.
So I don't know where I was in my life, but that never. It was not even a blip on my radar growing up, and I don't know where I was. Like maybe I was busy with.
You're a D&D guy, though, right?
Yeah, I'm a D&D guy. Yeah.
So I feel like, there is a certain fantasy to that movie that is very much.
86 Christian. Okay.
Yeah. There's definitely something you may appreciate that's sort of Lord of the Rings-ish, D&D-ish, like crossing over.
Yeah, that was like seventh. I was in 7th or 8th grade. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it was never like on my radar, and then I heard about it years and years after it came out.
Yoda directed it.
Frank Oz, really? Yeah, I don't know why. I just never saw it. I like the Muppets, and
Well, then you know what? It'll be a brand new Nite Owl
right,
episode.
right. No, seriously, yeah,
Of
yeah.
all the episodes we did for Nite Owl, that had a 22-shot setup. It took all day to do. There's one break that has like
Oh wow.
the whole episode had 22 shot setups. So there's one Fritz break where he's like, there's several cuts, and it's one of our best episodes.
Yeah,
effects wise.
sure.
Worth checking out. Did you ever see the movie before we did it?
No,
Okay,
that was my
definitely
that was my
picked this
first-
one.
Yeah, that was my first time with it.
And then we followed that up with the one I keep teasing. We followed Labyrinth up, which you can write off as a kiddie movie, but with David freaking Bowie. We followed that up with The Goonies. Now, let me tell you why I picked The Goonies.
Yeah, please.
People love this movie, and
Still
it's
do.
kind of iconic and still do. But for some reason, I find out when I choose this for Nite Owl Theatre that nobody on the damn team likes this movie, nor apparently anyone else in the world at that moment. But we did sell the screening out. So, there are Goonies fans, but I was heartbroken when everyone on the team was like, okay, we're doing the Goonies. And I'm like, wait, what?
Well, what I love the most about the Goonies is when you see the Nite Owl version, is that Mark Miller wrote it.
Yes.
You can hear in the script this like disdain for the movie, and Fritz's delivery of certain things. You can just tell Fritz does not like this movie, and it's like, I don't know, maybe.
It's just it literally is like these fucking kids are screaming
all they do
again.
is yell the entire movie.
I think the only other movie where I sounded like that was Santa Claus Conquers. What was it? Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Yeah, because we had to pick from a list. This we had complete creative freedom and still chose a movie that he hated as much as Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Oh no, not as much as Santa Claus Conquers the
That's
Martians.
a win, ladies and gentlemen. That's a win.
There you go.
Christian, are you a Goonies fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, thank God.
But don't you think it's just kids just yelling the entire time? And
Well, I do now that you assholes mentioned it, and now when I watch it, all I hear is kids screaming. But no, Anne Ramsey's so good in that though, and Joe Pantoliano from Risky Business and Sopranos and everything.
yeah.
You know, the bad guys are good in that movie.
Yeah, no-
Robert Davi from James Bond.
From Maniac Cop 2 and 3.
You're lucky I don't quit this show. No, but yeah, Goonies was not loved by all on the team, but damn it, we still did it.
Actually, you know what? And I think that if I remember correctly, Goonies has some of the best special effects.
It is really cool, like when they step on the rake and Fritz's severed head almost.
Well, that
hits
one,
him.
but it's also, if I remember correctly, isn't there something with a map, or there's Fritz? Is it a mirror shot?
Oh, there's
in
like
the
a
attic or
scene
something
where
like that?
they find an old newspaper article that
Yeah.
Fritz is on. Yeah.
I remember,
And they pick it up and he's on it like the whole, we like rotoscoped it.
right.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in the theater and being like, okay, this is pretty top notch special effects.
Well, this was Ryan's like best stuff ever as a VFX artist because he did Labyrinth, then the Goonies. Like that period of time he was like putting 1,000% in. Not that he didn't ever, but it's just we really like were in it. It wasn't till we did that all the way through Alien, which is coming up soon, but it was Alien that Fritz mentioned at the shoot. Like, guys, I get it, everything looks great, but the lights are hot.
Oh.
This doesn't need to take 800 hours.
Yeah, sure,
and
right.
he's right. We were going for like Hollywood, and it shouldn't. If this were a TV show like we're trying to do,
right.
Come on. I mean, we had to be a little bit.
So Fritz, of all the movies that we've mentioned so far, do you have any memories of like any segments that were either hard to do or the most fun to do, or like with Raiders, like being in the truck, or I don't know, are there any in there?
There's so many of them.
I do, yeah, there's a lot in it.
There were so many, but the beginning and end of the guy, the guy's head in the dish. Reanimator.
Oh, right. Yeah,
The open and close of that, I loved them, and as a matter of fact, that was on the tape we submitted. Was on the disc we submitted for an Emmy, and we won.
No discs anymore either.
Yeah.
We won the Emmy. The audition tape that went to the Emmy people. The first track on there was my head in the dish thing, and then it was followed by the open to Psycho,
Yes.
which was primarily you could just barely see me, so it was really a voiceover thing that I went. But there was one. I forget where I went into a dragon's mouth. You flew me, maybe turtles, teenage turtles. But
There's no dragons in that movie, but
you
let's go
flew me. They were up on the top of a building, flat thing, and a dragon comes up and opens its mouth, and you fly me in there. And it was the close for one of the movies.
Oh, wait. Are you thinking Little Shop of Horrors where Audrey's eating you? The green plant, the big green plant is eating you?
No, this.
Okay. Because I know in Turtles, they are on a rooftop and Shredder's standing there.
Yeah.
But there's no dragon. Like, it's just like he takes the mask off and it's you.
Well, there was one where I flew into something that
I gotta
was
figure
going
this
to
out.
devour me.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was the close of the movie.
Fantastic.
And
yeah.
I liked the close of. Oh, Jeremy, my memory is so. Where it was the cult movie that they showed every year. British film. I think
Rocky Horror?
Rocky Horror?
Rocky Horror. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I liked the close
2 points are bid.
of that one. There were so many things that we did in terms of special effects that I just thought were absolutely sensational and light years ahead of what the major studios in Hollywood were doing at the time. And we didn't have all the CGI gear that's available now.
Right. I mean, we just had
And
a really good effect.
That was the same thing.
Right.
That was the same thing with the TV show on Nite Owl. Was I did effects that network and movie theaters or feature films never did.
Yeah.
And they were just a lot of really fun things to do.
Yeah.
But they also looked good, and I think that's one of the reasons people enjoyed the Nite Owl show so much. Was there was some really bizarre things that it was like the glasses had that starburst effect on them, and a lot of dopers told me that was one of the things they enjoyed about seeing the movie. Was that we got a light show and a movie at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So going from Labyrinth to Goonies, which were 2 kids movies, I thought, the only place you can go from 2 kids movies in a row was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, it's also a kids movie, but I don't know what I'm realizing as I'm reading this episode guide that it was kind of crazy to put 3 kids movies in a row. However, still popular. You wrote Turtles, Vidas.
Yeah, I actually saw that 3 times in the movie theater.
Hell yeah. Okay, so here we go. So if Goonies was a bunch of kids screaming, what made you see Turtle? Like, I was obsessed with Turtles when it came out, but it was because I watched the cartoon all the time. Had you seen the cartoon, or were you just like...
The cartoon wasn't out, I don't think. So I knew the
Oh,
comic.
it was out, because 87 to 93, I think the cartoon, or 87 to 97. Because it was a 10-year...
Well, I knew
10
it.
seasons.
So I knew it. I don't know if you know this stuff, and I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds,
go
but so
we have a lot of movies.
so with that movie, or so it started off as a comic, and the comic was very dark,
very much.
and the story, and I don't know if they get into this in the movie, I don't remember, but Daredevil from Marvel Comics gets hit in the eyes with a radioactive isotope that gives him his powers, and in the comic that isotope goes into the sewer where there are 4 turtles, and that's what gives the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles their powers, or it makes them grow up. And so when I knew that, I was like, I'm a huge Daredevil fan, there's the connection. And so I went to go see the movie thinking it was going to be schlock, and I thought it was a lot more fun, a lot more creative. I thought the action sequences at the time were tons of fun, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie a lot, enough to see it 3 times.
Nice. It's great.
And even on dates. I took dates to see that movie. So.
Well, the fact that, like, Jim Henson, I mean, his work in his Creature Shop and that, the work is so amazing that, I mean, like, I don't know. That movie's just so cool to see that they didn't go for CGI in a time where CGI wasn't, a thing.
Oh, sure.
But all the practical costumes and everything in that are just, incredible.
Right.
But yeah, so that was that one, and then we move on to the Lost Boys because I was. I'm sorry. Let's go to you, Fritz, for Turtles. Any comments on Turtles? Did you read the
just
comics?
okay. I can't remember much about it.
Okay.
But
I didn't know if you had like read Turtles growing up.
No, because that came out
84.
Yeah, I think they came out in the 80s.
Yeah,
I always
no.
think he was our age. I'm sorry.
In '84, I wouldn't have been interested in the Turtles unless Frank Rosetta drew it.
Right. Yeah.
Good point. Oh, that would be an amazing.
Yeah.
That would be a killer comic. Yeah. So from there, the Lost Boys. So I picked this one because it's the best movie of the 80s. A lot of people could fight me on that, but it definitely is flamboyant rock and roll vampires, and I wanted to be one when I saw that movie, and that movie captured a vibe that was just like, I wasn't an outcast as a kid, but boy, it made me just kind of want to be in that world. I see you all shaking your heads. So I'm gonna throw it to Vidas actually on this so I can get the hate out real quick.
Well, no, I'm not. I was never a big fan. It had this like Poison, John Bon Jovi vibe, and that was never really my thing.
If Vidas isn't on future episodes, no, I'm kidding.
No, it wasn't my thing. Like the
kidding.
saxophone player, I don't know. It was like
That saxophone player was Tim Capello.
I know.
Who toured with a lot of great.
I know he did. No, but there was something about it that looked more. It was spectacle rather than story. I don't know. For me, it just wasn't my thing. It just wasn't. I'll just leave it at that.
Have you watched it recently?
I saw it last time I saw it was in Indianapolis when we showed it for Horror Hound.
Same feeling.
Yeah, it's just not my thing. Like
Thank you for your honesty.
yeah, it's just not my thing. I'll just put it that way.
What do you think of The Lost Boys?
It was just, to me, it was just another okay movie.
Thank you, Fritz.
I mean,
thank you very much.
It wasn't.
You know what?
Thank
this
you.
episode guide episode is a bad idea. I feel like
Fritz and I are gonna
picked a
start
bunch
our
of
own-
crappy movies.
No, you.
No, I'm just-
I was just astounded at how terrific the movies were that you picked. It just said, as I say, something like The Goonies and Lost Boys and so forth were movies I'd never seen before.
I get it. Yeah.
And they were just okay. Unlike, say, I disliked Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
As did we all.
Thoroughly disliked it, but there were just a lot of movies we showed that you picked out that got great crowds and had great effects. But when I was watching the movie, it was just, it's an okay movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I just didn't dislike it, but I wouldn't rave about it either.
Right. Well, I thank you for being a trooper on doing whatever. You've never vetoed a movie on me before, which is kind of amazing.
Well, as they say, the two movies in the 17 all the years we did Nite Owl, there were only two movies that I picked, and both of them bombed. So I was really thrilled. We got good crowds for every movie we showed.
Yeah.
That would
But you
have
picked
been
all of them
Hercules
except two.
and Charade.
Oh, charades?
Which I will fight anyone that hates Charade. Charade's
wow.
an amazing movie.
Yeah, the two I picked were Charade, and I also picked the very first Steve Reeves Hercules pictures because the Muscle Man pictures were, again, a big fad for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Those kind of movies. And
Well,
the
'cause of
Steve
Clash of
Reeves
the-
Hercules
yeah.
was the first one, and that was what set the fad for all of the other ones.
Wasn't Clash of the Titans in those 80s Sword and Sandal movies kind of a throwback to those anyway?
Yeah, but it wasn't
the-
a Muscle Man
Yeah, it was a Muscle
movie
Man.
like,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Because what was his name? Hamlin? Does it, Harry
Hamlin.
Hamlin, yeah.
You know, he was not the muscle. He was not muscular or anything like that.
As a matter of fact, Harry Hamlin, I've seen previews. Apparently, he has a cooking show
Yeah.
on cable.
Oh, he does, because he's actually signed with the agency I work for. So he's one of our clients, is Harry Hamlin. I
Yeah,
say our, but it's one of Mike's clients. Yeah.
I've seen the promos for the show, but I've never seen the show.
Sure. All right.
And all right, well, let's see. Next, Friday the 13th. Now, obviously, I picked this one and wrote this one because of Halloween. I tried to get all the iconic horror films in here, but the big thing is they had to be kind of fun. Like, I never wanted to pick a movie for Nite Owl that was a bummer. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre is scary as hell. I love it.
All right.
But there's not really, like, if you're watching that, you're all just kind of like, ooh.
It's a disturbing movie.
Like, it's highly disturbing. So is Hellraiser. You know, there isn't any levity in Hellraiser. Yeah, I love Hellraiser, but I'm just saying. But Friday the 13th, now the highlight of this one, and it wasn't when we premiered it, but the highlight of this one was Adrienne King came to one of our
Yes.
screenings, the lead actress. And I had met her previously at like a convention we did, and she came and was a trooper. I mean, she stayed both nights till like 5 a.m.
Right.
signing autographs.
And she hung out with us afterwards.
She hung out with us at Vidas' house.
So what I remember about that is that we all went out to dinner. We had two separate tables. We went to the Crest, and I remember we had
it was the Crest. It wasn't Hyde Park. Right?
no, it was two separate
It was
tables.
I thought it was a booth.
I wasn't.
we were all-
We did not sit. So there, when we went down there we two tables,
That's right. Yeah.
and I did not sit with her. When we at dinner,
Yeah.
But I remember they were like, "Hey, Vidas, we're going to use your house as like the green room between."
well, we didn't say it. That we asked you.
Well, yeah, no, you asked me, but I remember we found out though. But I remember we found
We're
out.
gonna use your house.
No. But we found
Go
out
get
that
ready.
she has her own like winery, or
She does, yeah. In Oregon.
We didn't know that.
She's Bruce Campbell's next door neighbor.
And so when we found that out, at dinner, and Tracy, my wife, was like, well, shit, because we like the stuff that we were going to serve is not the best. And so I remember we sped down the street. We stopped at Savor. Tracy ran in, and she's like, I just need two $75 bottles of whatever, bought some wine because we couldn't serve Adrian King, bad wine. And so then, but I remember Fritz came over. We're all at my house. And I remember the girls came down, and I was like, guys, it's Adrian King and Fritz the Nite Owl. And they were like, who the hell are, they had no idea, and
Adrian King and Fritz.
Yeah. But we all took pictures, and they still remember that night. But now that they've seen movies, they've seen Fritz and whatever, now they're like, okay, but at the time it didn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, like same planet, two different worlds, where you're like, oh my God, it's Adrian King. And my kids are like, who the hell is Adrian King?
Well, in the new series that A24 is doing, the Crystal Lake series on TV, that whatever it's going to be on, Adrian King is in that. Like, she's involved in that. So that's,
she was
going to kind of see her back again.
Well, she was fantastic. I mean, she was so much
great.
fun to hang out with, and the way she was with the crowd, and like you said, staying there until 5 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, it was great.
And then Alien. Now, this is the episodes we really, again, we're taking our time with the effects a lot on these things, to the degree of, putting Fritz under lights for 8+ hours per episode. Alien was the one where I remember you never said no to anything, but that was the one where you're like, hey, we got to make these shoots shorter. Because I know that we were just
I don't remember that. I remember A, I liked the movie, and B, I liked what we did with it.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
when it's done, it's awesome. But being there,
I can't remember. It wasn't until the later years that the length of the shoots were physically difficult.
Right, and this was the one where we kind of were like, after Alien, where we're like, okay, let's sort of, pick these up a bit, and because we don't really need to get. We were doing it to a degree that was really intense to make it easier for effects, but it was, but Alien was a cool, having, like, even at the beginning when you're standing in front of the beds and they raise up and it almost looks like angel wings.
Oh yeah,
behind him.
Yeah.
I was so wanting to center him so they're wings,
right?
And we were just trying to, and so it just made it kind of crazy, but. Thoughts on Alien? Did you write that one?
I wrote Alien, yeah. No, I love the movie. That was another one where I try to find information that not a lot of people knew.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the first. I think I actually saw Aliens before I saw Alien.
Me too.
Because I saw Aliens in the movie theater. But no, I love the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, again, liked it immensely. And
okay.
No, I thought it was a great horror film and a great they really had terrific suspense in there.
Yeah.
And the monster coming out of the person's chest, that was A+ with stars.
Yeah, and that's what it was. The little Fritz.
I'd never seen anything like that before, and I just saw it was so well done, gory, but really well done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think it was Labyrinth. Labyrinth was the hard episode because the ones after that, I'm realizing as I'm going through them, we did a lot of effects sequence breaks where what we call the talking mouth Fritz, where it was just the alien mouth moved and you heard Fritz's voice. And I think we did that because the Lost Boys had some of that, Alien had some of that, and then after a while we put the kibosh on that and started doing more. But yeah, no, Alien is when I go back and watch it every time, that last 10 minutes is really some of the scariest things in horror. After that, we did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So this one I picked just because when I was growing up, we just thought it was a fun, bad movie. And then I realized that MGM owned it and everything. And I'm like, oh, it's legit. So but it's the closest to cult that we kind of did. Had you seen that before?
I saw it in a film class in high school.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. It was, I thought, the teacher, everything about it was, it was kind of, an art class. And then he showed this movie and I'm like, really, this movie? But then I remember really enjoying it. But that was, last time I saw it was back in 1989, 1990. Yeah. Something like that. So
it's so creative, all the stuff that they do with the popcorn morphing into, the cotton candy guns. And that just, the video game just came out for
Oh,
it.
wow.
And like everywhere you go, there's action figures now. It's like this one standalone movie has
Sure.
a whole market
Right.
of things now. Had you seen Killer Clowns before we did it?
No, first time, liked it, and we had some terrific effects in that one.
Yeah.
We had some of the. You asked before about the better effects, and I thought we had some of the best ones in Killer Clowns, and I loved the title.
Yeah, well, it's the best effect in that episode is, and I don't know if you were at the screening when we did it this year. So the shadow puppets, the scene where it like eats the people, we took Fritz and like his silhouette is on the wall. So as the clown's doing this, Fritz is hosting as an animated silhouette,
Oh, that's cool.
and it was just like that. It was a cool.
Yeah,
one. It's one of
that's
my
neat.
favorite ones. Little Shop of Horrors. It's the one that got the Emmy. The Fritz being swallowed by Audrey.
I never saw that one.
You never saw Little Shop?
I saw the movie.
You never saw the Night Owl?
I never saw the Night Owl version. So
one you're coming to this year.
sorry.
Didn't we show both the black and white version and the color version?
We did when we had Tobias on last episode. We talked about the first two seasons, and that was in our second.
Oh,
season.
right.
It was next to
I
that.
knew we did the black and white one. I liked immensely because not only was it campy and all of that, but I mean it had a great jazz score. I forget which who the musician was that was the head of the music, but
Yeah, the whole score is just
the whole score was a
Yeah.
terrific West Coast jazz thing. I liked that, and I liked the color version also.
Yeah, the color version's great. I did not realize that, and you'll know his name maybe, but is it Alan Menken, the guy that wrote the songs for that, did The Little Mermaid, and like a bunch of
okay.
other things. I mean, it's Little Shop of Horrors has some of the best music.
Sure.
And it's just like, man, this is so good.
Yeah, well, the thing that I remember the most is Steve Martin. You know,
Yeah.
his "I Want to Be a Dentist" scene.
Well, and Bill Murray.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's great. The Night Owl episode's cool because we fake out the audience by playing the original director's cut ending first.
Well, we had that.
Which is
We also
highly
had
different.
that.
Okay.
We also had that terrific motorcycle shot.
Yeah.
Where I was going
Fritz is
through
on
town, and
the
yeah,
motorcycle.
That's cool.
And what's
it
weird
was,
is
it was
in the
very
movie,
Brandoish, wild one. Because that's one of the classic still photos of Brando is on the. It's a medium shot of him on the bike, coming straight at you.
Yeah.
And that was what we did in that effect. And
in the background, in the actual movie, while Steve Martin's on the bike, he
Yeah.
passes Night Owl Theatre.
we passed a movie
written
theater.
in the same font that Tobias chose for our second season.
That's a bias.
Our second season, but it's that way on the marquee in the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we just not even nobody complete coincidence. And so Fritz mentions that in the break and it like zooms in on it and it's like, look,
that's
there
really
it is
cool.
in the
Oh,
background.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. Beetlejuice. Come on, we all love this movie.
Oh yeah,
right?
A plus.
Yeah. All right,
Yes.
moving on.
Yes. No, I absolutely love that movie. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I met
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Did you interview him for the?
I interviewed him. As a matter of fact,
sweet.
way back before he was a big star, he was in the stage where he was. His name was under the title, and he was sort of a featured supporting actor. And then he had a series that was on TV where he and somebody else were handymen. But I forget the name of the
Oh, I don't know
series.
that.
But
Yeah, we looked that up before, and I can't remember. I think in the
know.
previous episode.
But anyway, I had 15 minutes with Michael Keaton. Enjoyed him immensely.
Nice. Nightmare on Elm Street was next, and of course that completes the Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Elm
Yeah,
Street
yeah.
trilogy of iconic horror films. I've always loved the movie. It's always been scary, but also funny enough. It's the one episode that Fritz almost said no to because we do have a rule about possession movies kind of freaking Fritz out. And so we haven't done Amityville Horror or Exorcist or anything like that. This was one of those movies where, like, I don't think you had seen it, but when you watched it, you're like, that's the pretty close treading that line of like what's a little bit too freaky.
Is that
what's
the one
a
where
little
the open was on the swing and the telephone?
That's Scream. That's what
Oh,
we did for Scream.
okay.
But yeah, same director, But yeah, no, Elm Street's Freddy Krueger haunts people in their dreams, and you know, it's just that,
right.
you know. So
No,
it's
I'm
a little
just trying to think of what we did on it.
Oh right, yeah.
I can't.
That's the one where you came up
From in the bathtub.
in the bathtub.
That was pretty funny.
Which was
Oh yeah.
treading, yeah.
No, that was funny. Yeah, that gets a good laugh from the audience.
Yeah, I remember like wanting to bring Fritz up and then turn around, and that got vetoed. I just didn't think about it. I was like, oh yeah, we're showing it
sure.
with the cast. We probably
Right.
shouldn't do that. Ghostbusters, iconic. You just made a face. What's up? Do you not like Ghostbusters?
I'm not okay, yeah, again, I'm pissing off all your listeners. I'm not a huge fan of that because when I saw it as a kid, like Bill Murray's character he's a bully.
Yeah.
Like when you first see him, he's torturing the poor guy during the test.
Yeah.
And I remember watching and the audience is laughing. I'm like, he's a bully. He's a jerk. And all he does is sexually harass Sigourney Weaver Sigourney Weaver is just sexually harassed throughout the entire movie by both Bill Murray and Rick Moranis.
This is why
You know?
growing up in the 80s, though, when I would see those movies as a kid, I had to check myself on. I was like, "Oh, that's how you flirt."
Right.
I mean, literally,
right.
You know, in Back to the Future,
Yeah,
when he
right.
like calls the cat a bastard, you bastard.
Right.
I remember someone cutting my mom and I off on the road, and I called him a bastard, and my mom was like, "Where did you hear that?"
Yeah.
because I didn't know it was a cuss word. You know, like boy, those movies
But
in the
like,
80s.
like
get you.
I didn't think about I didn't know the word sexual harassment at the
Yeah,
time, but
right.
I remember watching like Bill Murray and being like, you know, I don't like you. I'm not rooting for you.
Yeah.
You know, I thought the Dan Aykroyd blowjob scene is a little gratuitous,
Which
like,
I also
stupid.
didn't know when I was a kid.
Yeah,
that
but
it
I was like,
a
that's kind of,
blowjob
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that movie. I'm sorry, everybody.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, that one I give an A to. Liked it immensely, and I like Bill Murray when he's in that sort of asshole mode, because his dialogue is terrific, and the way he looks and moves when he's doing it, it's just completely unique for an actor, and so just from the actor's point of view, I give him extra points for that.
Well, yeah, I love
So
when he
it's-
knocks the thing out of Ray's hand, and I mean, yeah, he is an asshole, but I also I laugh at him,
But
and also
likable.
recognize that he's not a good guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why. I just never, because that's the first scene that you see him in,
Right.
And it's so and he doesn't really do anything to redeem himself to me. I guess I don't know. They were funny. It's funny,
Yeah.
I guess, but
Some of the effects in that episode. I mean, we had Fritz as the Stay Puft Man, of course, and we had
the head,
the
who's
floating ghost at the
yeah.
beginning was kind of great, where he's the purple librarian, you know, and he like hosts the intro that way.
I gotta see that again.
Yeah, it's a cool. Then we did Reanimator. This was one of the episodes that Horror Hound asked us to do because I wasn't going to do it because of how violent it was, and I'm like, typical Night Owl audience. You know, there's going to be some people going, "Oh dear," when it
Yeah.
comes to that. But it was one of your favorites, I believe. We had
Right.
your severed head in a tin, and Fritz
Well,
wanted to
I
send
thought
that in for the Emmys.
I thought we did a terrific job, and I was astounded that both the two stars. It was like 20 years after the movie, and they still looked like they did in the movies.
Yeah, we had the cast with us at that one. That was great. And Fritz wanted that severed head intro on his Emmy tape. And I was just like, I don't know, man. If you send like blood and gore to the Emmy
Right.
submissions, we're going to. And he got the Emmy that year. And I'm
That's
like,
fantastic.
okay.
That's cool.
And
that was
the close was also good on that, where the guy threw the head at
throws
me
the severed
and,
head and you dodge it.
and I dodged it. Yeah,
Yeah.
That sequence ranked with Jaws, where the lady slaps me.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the movies we did, there were so many that I've really forgotten what we did, but the open and close of Reanimator, I like the effects we did in
Yeah.
that.
And then we're gonna kind of, I know we're going long tonight, people, but we're gonna kind of blow through the rest of these. But Jurassic Park was the next one because it definitely, we were starting like a new year, and I just remember, that's another one of those Spielberg-ish. I kind of want to hit all the Spielbergs. And I thought we could have a lot of fun with that. Not knowing that it would eventually be a 6-movie franchise that barely anyone cares about now. But that original still holds up.
Sure.
That original is still great. Having Fritz getting eaten off the toilet was fun to do. And just all the different,
I remember seeing that movie on opening night. I read the book and was such a huge fan of the book. Remember I saw the movie on opening night, and that's when they had the preview for Free Willy.
Oh,
do you remember that? Like,
I saw Free Willy.
Did you see Free Willy? But then
Michael Madsen not being a badass.
But I remember when they were like Free Willy, and the whole audience started laughing at the name. That's my one fun memory of that movie. Seeing it in theater.
Jurassic Park is Free Willy.
It was free. Well, the preview, and it's like how a name can just the wrong name can unintentional comedy.
Yeah. No. It's But you've seen Jurassic Park before we did it, right?
No, it was his first time.
God, yes. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Introducing you all this new cinema. Wayne's World, which when I chose that was definitely a Friday night movie, and I wanted to kind of see what we could do with that. And a lot of fun. Wayne's World always packed it in. We did Wayne Stock one year.
Thought it was terrific.
Yeah, that was great. The Blob. Now, the reason I didn't choose the original Blob is because the 1988 remake is like one of the best horror movies of the 80s, I think. Like Christian over there giving the devil horns. Yeah, no, that was great, but what a hard effects episode because, smashing Fritz against the phone booth when he's like getting eaten and devoured by the blob and his face is like pulling. I remember we had to like actually press your face up against the windshield.
Yeah.
And you were doing the whole break, like just like, it was, he was a trooper, man. It was pretty great. So then, I noticed that we hadn't done any older films. It was all mostly 80s, and so I picked Psycho next, which was another one on your Emmy submission that year that you won.
Yeah.
The second year.
That was the second cut
Yeah.
on the audition tape for the Emmy. And we won the Emmy for performance.
And I feel like I also felt bad for doing the remake of The Blob instead of the original Blob, so I did the original Psycho. That way it was okay, we acknowledge.
Yeah, the original Blob at Channel 10, I was eaten by the blob, and to do it, I made about 2 or 3 boxes of Jell-O, put it on a flat pie pan, and the engineers, when they shot it, they were able to put the Jell-O jiggling at the top and at the bottom, coming up while I'm talking, and it's going to.
That's great.
Well, that's what I love is how creative you had to be before you were able to do it with computers.
Right, sure.
Let's see. Twilight Zone, the movie. This was one where I don't know why I mean, I know it was kind of like out there, but I loved the John Lithgow gremlin on the wing of the plane, so I'm like, we got to do it, but I couldn't do it without addressing the accident. So that's why I wrote that one, and just like I think we handled it well. But the effects in that were pretty cool. When Lithgow pulls up the screen and you're on the outside of the window and he freaks out, and that's a good one. This next one was kind of, I think, probably the craziest one we've done is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Have you seen this episode? We only showed it twice.
I haven't seen the episode. I've seen the movie,
but
I only saw it when it came out.
Because we had Fritz hanging on the Tweety Bird thing, and Tweety's like taking Fritz's fingers off, and when he falls like we have him falling all the way down to the ground and toward the camera and all this.
Well, I've seen that clip from the that's in the intro.
Super trailer, yeah.
Right.
Well, I've always had a thing of live people mixed with animation, which I first saw with Gene Kelly dancing with the mouse from that cartoon series that MGM had.
Yeah.
Tom and Jerry, And Fred Astaire is dancing with that mouse. And again, I'd never seen anything like that. Or maybe 15 years old. And I've just always liked the mixture of animation and live action. And Roger Rabbit was, to me, just absolutely the high point. Enjoyed that immensely. Not only did I like the movie, I just liked the effects in it. And the characters, having the Warner Brothers and Disney characters mixed together, to me was another big big plus.
I always like loved that movie, and then I was, I asked a couple, and it might have been Tobias asked this or Ryan or somebody that was working on the show, but about why it looks so damn good in Roger Rabbit, and it's because they animated after they shot it. So like everybody was like, if they high five somebody, they would have the live footage and then just put the cartoon character in to match their hand exact. Like, and I'm like, oh, which I think, I'm sure CGI does that too, but there's something about the way that
that makes it more
that
look more
just
realistic
made it
or more
like,
authentic.
Man,
And that cartoon lady in the red dress, I forget.
Jessica Rabbit, Kathleen Turner.
Again, it was a thing that the cartoony Jessica Rabbit was still incredibly sexy.
If it was between that and Cool World, which one's hotter? Kathleen Turner.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, there we go. Did you see Cool World?
I have not seen it.
Brad Pitt and Kim Basinger.
Yeah.
The next 2 episodes we did were Sleepwalkers and Fright Night. Those were commissioned by Horror Hound. So Sleepwalkers did introduce us to Mick Garris, who's still a friend of ours to this day. He sat with Fritz and I the whole premiere and gave like us commentary. And I mean, he's got Mark Hamill in a cameo. He's got Clive Barker and John Landis and all these people like peppered throughout the movie. And it wasn't, the best received movie, but it was a lot of fun to get to do that with him. And he's the only director so far that watched the whole episode. Cool. And
the thing was, he laughed where we needed a laugh, and he reacted to what we did in the movie. And again, all through Nite Owl, when we would do the live things, I would know there would be a place that in my performance, what I said, I wanted a laugh, and invariably the laugh came. Yeah. We always got the laugh where I was hoping we would get it.
Yep. And then Fright Night we did. Chris Sarandon actually introduced that with us, and that was a movie where I was glad they asked us to do it. I mean, it was definitely a great 80s horror film, but it wasn't, there's something kind of like uneven about it. Like when you watch it, it's just the characters are kind of weird, and
I agree.
Doesn't quite land, but it was a fun episode to do. And then our final season, as it were, going into that, kicked it off with Scream, which was just a blast to do. Fritz is on the swing outside, calls Drew Barrymore. They have a back and forth, and it really plays well. That went into Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I know you loved, especially the poster that Matt Harris did of Fritz and Rocky. Just like the shirtless Fritz, the ripped Fritz.
Well, I liked the clothes that had the RKO tower in it as part of it.
Tower. Yeah, we did a lot of cool.
I like the effects that we did in that, and I forget the Time Warp.
Time Warp. Yeah.
Loved that song. Still goes through my head, and again, whenever it's on, I watch it from whatever point I happen to be picking up on. I'll watch it all the way to the end.
Yep.
Really, really terrifically done.
Yeah, and then Tim Burton's Batman. And this was huge to me. I grew up, loving this movie in the theater. I think is that one of the ones that you went to with your dad?
No. So Rocky Horror, going back to that one, was part of my awakening because I saw that as a teenager, and it introduced me to
a
whole other world out there. But then, because I became a regular at Rocky Horror, and then Batman I saw with the same people I went to go see Rocky with. But Batman, I still think to this day that Michael Keaton is the best Batman.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, most people say George Clooney, but
yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Right.
No, I like George Clooney. I thought he looked great, facially coming out of the mask, and I liked the personality they gave him. Hated the costume, and the story was so. But in terms of just sheer looks like Batman, I give it to Clooney looking the best. And he didn't make his voice sound like this, like so many of these guys did. Michael Keaton didn't do this either when he was Batman.
Right.
It was always Michael Keaton's voice was the same as Bruce Wayne's.
Well, that's the thing. Christopher Nolan's such a great director, but you watch his Batman, and it's almost flawless. And then he does that voice, and I thought I was watching like a dubbed prank.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, Okay, this is what you went with. All
Sure,
right,
sure.
and that's all right. Cool.
But a lot of the Batmans did that. Val Kilmer did it, and a couple of the Batmans, the later ones, also did it.
Robert Pattinson just stayed goth the whole time, so it was fine. It wasn't like. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I've seen
I
it
saw
a
it
couple times.
6 times, and I was obsessed with that movie.
Yeah.
That was so much better than it should have been.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was kind of interesting. The lead actor who played in the Christopher Nolan first one, which was a Dark
Christian
Knight
Bale. Yeah.
or Batman Begins.
Batman Begins.
One of the two. I forget who is the actor that played Batman.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, he was. I saw him on some show. I don't know what, and he was saying that for that movie he had to do 3 voices. He said, "I did the Batman voice, the Bruce Wayne Playboy voice, and then Bruce Wayne just talking to Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman."
Well, 2 of them sounded fine.
Yeah, no, but I mean the thing is, as an actor, to realize that 3 voices were really needed. It was just that I didn't like the voice he picked for Batman.
You know, that is cool of him to notice the different parts of the personalities
Sure.
of that character. But I also just think of Christian Bale in the audience, like hearing that Batman voice, just going, "Yeah," like, "No, dude, no." So much no about it.
The first thing, Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
There we go, bringing it back.
A plus 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 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, he was terrific. Whereas the Joker in the later one looked like he should have been in the room with Beetlejuice.
Yeah, although
I
Heath
wasn't
Ledger,
real-
boy, that was a haunting performance. I really loved that.
Yeah.
And I think I tried to separate myself from the fact that he had just passed, and we were still like about
Sure.
it, and actually watch it for what it is. But even now, it's just like that is a haunting way to play that character. That I mean, I love Joaquin Phoenix,
Right.
Joker, but Heath Ledger just gives me chills the way you don't see Heath Ledger in that role at all.
Yeah, but
and at the time, everything he was in, he was him.
Nicholson came right out of the comic book
Yeah.
art. From 1940, when I first saw the Joker in Detective Comics or Batman comics, that was Nicholson's makeup and characterization.
Yep.
Just terrific.
And one of my favorite effects in that is when you're laying kind of where the Joker is falling and he's laying on the ground dead and the camera's spinning. And
Oh, yeah.
your outro was that, and you've got the like laughing thing around your neck, and yeah, that was a cool.
Matt, I liked the poster Matt did for. To me, that was one of the best posters of the every poster he did was excellent, but I thought the Batman was one of the ones I liked the best.
That Matt Harris art.
Because that would look like a comic book panel,
Yeah,
right?
different panels.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it totally was like, hey, we got to do the Nite Owl comic. I mean,
Right,
after
yeah,
seeing
yeah.
that, which I still have yet to sell him on. We'll see.
My only criticism. Now the artwork on all of the posters was just A+ with stars. My only criticism of those posters was that Matt Harris didn't write his name big enough, and in a place where he would put it in a area that was dark, and then he would use kind of not a real white pen to show it off, and he would write it too small. But that was, other than the way he signed it, those posters were frameable and hangable, and absolutely everyone. And the thing was with Matt Harris, we never told him what the content should be on the poster.
Right.
We just told him the name of the movie,
Yeah.
and we let him do whatever he wanted to art-wise on the poster. And every one he made was just absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Next movie we did was Krampus, and that was Michael Dougherty's follow-up to Trick or Treat. So it was taken as Halloween horror, and now going into Christmas horror. It's the newest movie we ever did for Nite Owl, but it was fun to do, and Michael got such a kick out of that of just seeing Fritz now, that he grew up watching him. Monster Squad was after that. It's one of my favorite movies of the 80s, but we were asked to do it by Horror Hound. I was so afraid that it would be a screaming kid movie like the Goonies, that you would see it that way, but I think you like the Monster Squad a little bit better than...
I don't remember anything about it.
Good memory then.
Yeah.
No, yeah, about the kids that Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Mummy come to town, and basically the kids have to fight them off. It's a cool... We'll watch it one day, Fritz.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, it was to me it was a forgettable movie, but it was okay. I didn't dislike it. It was just
Totally, yeah.
It was okay. Wouldn't watch it again.
Yeah.
Or go out of my way to see it again.
Well, you were good in it. We did Giorgio Moroder's Metropolis after that. So that's, we did Metropolis at the end of season 1. Probably our best effects in the first 2 seasons, but this was the music version. They have Freddie Mercury and everything on the soundtrack when the film was first restored. What we did was we took the Fritz breaks from the original season 1 and upscaled them to HD, tinted them to the movie, and pretty much reused them, but added some stuff at the beginning credits, just to show both versions of Metropolis, a movie we love so much. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was next. That was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
Your effects were great in that, especially the first thing we knew we were going to do is send Fritz through the Tunnel of Doom and freak everybody out, and a scene that's already scary. So that was a lot of fun.
As a chocolate junkie, it was so tough for me to watch that movie without wanting to have a bittersweet, dark chocolate bar or some little things like they put in the chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. And then Dawn of the Dead was the last of the convention movies that we were asked to do. Dawn of the Dead, the original Romero one. Ken Foray from the movie introduced that with us. We had a lot of fun with this one. Just Fritz in a mall. There's a scene where Fritz actually gets shot in the head at the end of his break, and he's like in the crosshairs, and he's just like, I think it might be the outro. I have to watch it, but I think he said like same time, same bang. I mean, it just like takes him right out of the. That's awesome. And it looks so real. It's like, I don't know if the Nite Owl fans will like that or not. But we had a lot of fun with that. The Warriors. You were there for that when James Remar introduced that with us. The Warriors. Boy, what a controversial movie now.
No,
you go back and watch that.
That was one I didn't like. I showed it on Nite Owl. I didn't like it there, and I didn't like it. I knew that we would get a good crowd because you always pick movies that got a good crowd.
Yeah.
It was just that Santa Claus was my least favorite, and The Warriors was also one that I didn't like when I first saw it and showed it on Channel 10.
Yep.
And I didn't like it any better when I liked what we did with it, but I didn't care for the movie itself.
Yeah, and you never know what kind of crowd you're going to get when you show the Warriors.
Sure.
like if they're seeing the movie for what it is or not. From Dusk Till Dawn was a blast.
Yeah.
That was our next one. I mean, we putting Fritz and Tarantino together. Yes. So Fritz, I think you were in the trunk for that one.
Yeah.
A lot of the effects were great for that episode.
Actually, Frank Frazetta did one of the movie posters for that.
And it's at the ending credits of the episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like scrolls along that. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We finally got to do the original Godzilla. This one was for Matt Harris. And he co-directed that with me. And he was in heaven. I mean, Godzilla and Fritz together. That was a lot of fun to do. It's not the best fast-paced moving movie for an audience, but it was fun to see you host it again since Channel 10.
What year was that made?
Oh, 1956.
I was going to say, I saw that in a theater.
Yeah, Raymond Burr. They
First,
reshot
yeah.
some scenes. Yeah.
RoboCop,
actor Ray Wise is a friend of mine, and he said if we did RoboCop, he would intro it with me. And so Ray being in the movie, we did RoboCop, and then that is when Fritz retired. And so we did RoboCop, and we only had 3 left to go, which were The Crow, Tron, and E.T. Those may happen, but Fritz retired after RoboCop. We will be showing RoboCop.
Well, it was physical.
Yeah. Physical too. Yeah, I mean, we still do.
It was too difficult to do, the recordings.
Yeah, we showed that for our 50th anniversary, and that's when Ohio Theater asked us to do it for that. And then the last 3 episodes we did, which still don't have we haven't done effects yet, but we shot them in 2016 as the Star Wars trilogy.
Yay!
The original Star Wars trilogy written by Vidas Barzdukas, and haven't seen the Matt Harris posters yet. He's had them done and
Has he really?
won't show them to me until we show it.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
I know. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's
but,
great. That's really cool.
But if we go out with the Star Wars trilogy, there's worse things we could have gone out with. So
Sure.
there you go. There's your episode guide, part 2. Episode
don't-
guide, part 1, we had one
Don't we have a problem with getting the permission from
to show
the
it. Yeah.
producers to
So
show
Disney, you can book it if you do it at a non-theater. Like if we did it at a park, we could book it. If we did it at Ohio Theater, we could book it. If we do it in a movie theater, you cannot. So, or it has to be a movie theater that isn't running first-run films. There's this whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Disney. Yeah, same thing with Fox titles. We can't show Alien anymore. We can't show,
Okay.
because it's all owned by Disney.
Right,
So,
okay.
but thank you so much. Keep coming to the 50th anniversary screenings. Keep tuning in. We hope you enjoyed these couple of episodes that work as episode guides for you to just check off the episodes you've seen and the ones you still have to see. Home video, of course. You got seasons 1 and 2, the Blu-ray and DVD. And come back for the next episode of Conversations with the Owl. Thank you for your patience, and we kept you along tonight. But have fun. And Fritz, you want to sign us off?
See you next time, same Friday.